public service broadcaster, the BBC faces an unprecedented crisis, with the world's most powerful man threatening a billion-dollar lawsuit and its critics attacking the accuracy of its output amid allegations of bias. Questions over the BBC's news coverage resurfaced after the leak of an internal memo earlier this month. It alleged serious and systemic problems tied to reporting on the Gaza war, on gender rights, and on US President Donald Trump. Soon after his legal team shared a threatening letter last weekend, the repercussions were swift, with the resignations of the BBC Director General Tim Davie and Head of News Deborah Turness.
I stepped down over the weekend because the buck stops with me. But I'd like to make one thing very clear. BBC News is not institutionally biased.
The chair of the BBC's board, Samir Shah, has acknowledged that Trump's complaint about a specific documentary's editing has some merit. Some media lawyers say the broadcaster has few good options and may have to settle to avoid significant reputational damage.
His lawyer would draft what the Americans call a complaint. Now that will be about 35, 40 pages long, a diatribe against the BBC, its senior management. It will be lurid, it'll be as damaging as it possibly can be, and the moment it's lodged, it'll go viral. So even if they went on to win, the cost to them of going forward to a trial is something they cannot bear.
The BBC struggled with other criticisms this year, including claims of anti-Semitism on the social media posts of a former presenter, in chants of death to the IDF or Israeli army during a concert broadcast, and the cancellation of 2 documentaries on Gaza.
I'm stuck here in Gaza.
Despite its global reach and vast audience, a drawn-out legal battle against the US president may prove extremely damaging. Willem Marks, Al Jazeera.
So basically what they're telling you is that just like news organizations here in the United States of America, the BBC has been biased and painting a narrative against our president that is not right. And so when he would, do these speeches, they would then go, and we got to start making sure that we cover this, and be honest about what's going on, because he can do a speech, and then if they can then doctor it, especially in this age of AI and deep fakes, if they can doctor it without any kind of repercussions, and they're supposed to be a reputable worldwide news organization that people pay attention to, which is one of the reasons why it's so difficult to convince people that he's not racist, even though we have evidence otherwise, then they need to be held accountable. And just because they apologize does not mean that they shouldn't be liable, because the damage is already done. And that's the key here, is that the damage is already done. And their reputation should take a stain. It should take a dump. And they should have to work to become a reputable organization again, because we don't know how many other instances that this has taken place. We don't know how many other situations where, they're supposed to be covering this, and they're supposed to be separating and differentiating between their opinion versus what is a fact, and they're not doing that. And so what happens is you finally got somebody that says, well, enough is enough, and we're gonna hold this organization accountable. And so that's what Trump has been doing. He's been holding these organizations accountable, not just the ones here on the U.S. soil, the MSNBCs, the CNNs. He's also holding the BBC accountable. And now they have to answer for that. And they don't want to go to trial, because then it would damage their reputation even more, especially in the discovery phase. And who knows how many different instances that they've been doing this. You had different people from the organization refusing to acknowledge that they've been biased, but then at the same time, they now want to issue an apology. But again, like I said, the damage has already been done. You can't apologize for something that you tried to ruin. We don't even know what they did during the 2020 election. I still personally can't believe that, the Biden administration got the most votes in history. There's no way you can sell me on that. And the longer and the more information comes out like this, the more I realize that it has been slanted. The media is becoming too powerful. And I like the fact that we now have individual journalists and media and bloggers and whatever else you want to call us that gives our own opinion, that has the ability to reach millions, if not billions of people. depending on who wants the information and who decides that they want to tune in. But yes, they should take a hit. Their reputation is stained. And I don't think that anybody should be looking at BBC as a credible source, depending on the subject that they're talking about.
Joining me now is Fox News legal analyst Greg Cherry. Greg, I think it's one of the most nakedly political things that you could possibly see in the media. It's beyond malpractice. And in my mind, by the way, I think it's defamatory in America. It's certainly defamatory in the UK, where the bar is much lower for defamation than in the U.S.
That's right. That's right, Will. You're so right. You're a lawyer. And look, in Great Britain, it's the reverse of the U.S. The burden of proof shifts to the defendant to prove they didn't defame somebody. So it favors plaintiffs. Look, here's the game. When you get caught red-handed defaming somebody, as the BBC did, well, you try to minimize the financial exposure. You offer an apology, retraction of the slander. They did that, but it does not erase the past damages that Trump sustained. When the BBC, as you showed it, hacked up the J6 video to falsely portray Trump as inciting violence, that documentary ran repeatedly over a long period of time. And in fact, they did the same thing, same videotape 2 years earlier. So that caused considerable harm to Trump's reputation, not just in Great Britain, but throughout Europe. The BBC is seen everywhere on television, social media. This was dishonest propaganda journalism at its worst.
The only thing that I can think of off the top of my head that rivals it, that's in the same manner, is the way that the Very Fine People clip got edited and spread around, creating a false narrative. Great. And by the way, just for the audience's edification, defamation, I think, is fascinating. And President Trump is a public figure. So in the United States, the standard is malice. Did they do it maliciously or with a reckless disregard for the truth? And look, if I'm a plaintiff's attorney, I'm looking at that going, you're damn right that's a reckless disregard of the truth.
Yeah, they absolutely knew what the truth was, and they ignored it. They edited it in a deceptive way. And the two top executives resigned in disgrace, and they removed the slander. Yet, Will, can you believe it? The network still claims it wasn't defamatory. Of course it was. It was done with actual malice. Why else would they delete it and apologize? Yet they still insist, oh, there's no institutional bias in our newsroom. That's absurd, and in fact, it's undermined by a smoking gun internal memo giving a very detailed account of the rampant liberal bias that has infected the BBC's reporting, the stories they choose to cover, the slanted way they tell those stories. They should compensate Trump and hoover their newsroom of all the faux journalists who refuse to be fair and objective.
I would say they should probably prepare for compensation.
And that's so bad. I'm not sure if there's anybody that is unbiased, that just truly wants to do real journalism, that wants to get to the truth, that wants to, even if you have a conservative view, have the balance so that it's a more honest perception of what's going on in the world, let alone the American political landscape, because everybody just seems like they are liberal. And it's like these organizations, it starts at the top. It starts at the top. The vision of people, the directors, the managers, the executives that oversee what happens at these networks, it then trickles down into who they decide to hire and what narrative they want to paint and what they kind of want to slant. And that's unfortunate because we've known that the media has been compromised for a long time now. We're just now finding out to what extent. I think that the Trump administration was right for suing the BBC. I think that they're also right for bringing visibility to this issue. I know that liberals are not going to acknowledge it, but it is what it is. Let me know what y'all think inside of the comments. Make sure y'all tap into the Patreon. Link is in the description. Teach Hanley, 40% off your first order, 20% off for life. I love you. I appreciate you. I'll let you guys later. Peace.